Thank you for joining us again and welcome back to our channel. If you are joining for the first time, I appreciate your time. In this episode, I want to explore the relationship between the country of Eritrea and that of China. I will explore Eritrea's relationship with Russia and more importantly, why the United States of America is mute in that particular region of the continent of Africa. Why am I looking at this episode? I'm exploring this because China has expanded its influence across the continent of Africa, specifically in the Horn of Africa, and Eritrea is a very strategic partner in the region. Russia as well has extensive relationship with the country of Eritrea, and more importantly, the United States of America struggles at this moment to establish itself in this particular area. I have some notes I've made. I've conducted extensive research, particularly this episode, so I will encourage you to smash the like button and share the video where I will explore detailed research with regards to this particular relationship. So without any much delay, let's dive straight into it. China and Russia have recently increased their engagement with Eritrea, a small but strategically located country in East Africa. Meanwhile, American influence in the region is amid a year-long slide. Despite obvious risk, the United States of America has failed to muster a committed response and has even taken some counterproductive measures that demonstrate a lack of strategic thinking at the moment. If the trend continues, a vital region may fall under the conclusive influence of the United States of America's primary geopolitical competitors, in this case the country of Russia and China. If you look at a long depending relationship so far, Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki recently made a 4-day trip the past couple of months looking at his relationship to visit the country of China, where he was feted with a red carpet and also a 21-gun salute. This warm reception reflects his long relationship with Beijing, which predicts Eritrea's independence from Ethiopia. In 1967, Afwerki and others from what was then northern Ethiopia traveled to China for military training. Almost 30 years later, the same group will lead the insurgency that won Eritrea's independence. Afwerki is reportedly a devotee of Mao Zedong and an admirer of the Chinese Communist Party. He has visited Beijing 5 times since 1994 and shares China's goal of rewriting the global order away from the United States of America and the West. As you can see, the relationship between these two countries is just growing over and over. China is a very strategic partner with regards to Eritrea's existence at the moment, and Eritrea also look at China to be a critical partner in terms of their growth and development, looking at investment and more importantly on the strategic partnership. The Eritrean government and Chinese policy reflects Afwerki's sympathy. The ruling party's Front for Democracy and Justice, known as the PFDJ, started participating in exchanges with the CCP years ago, and Eritrea dignitaries regularly visit Beijing. 3 senior officials, Foreign Minister Osman Saleh, head of the PFDJ's economic and also affairs Hogos Gabrevich, the presidential advisor Yamane Gabrevich at that particular trip, account for at least 15 total visits to the country of China since 2010. Sino-Eritrean relationship even survived the revelations that China sold weapons to both sides of the region, including that Ethiopia victorious war during that particular period looking at 1998 to 2000. Beijing reciprocated Asmara enthusiasm. Since Eritrea's independence, 4 of 5 Chinese foreign ministers, including the newly in place current minister, having visited the country during their tenure. Since 1997, 16 Chinese medical teams have worked in Eritrea. China is Eritrea's largest investor, contractor, and trade partner, and China companies also build some of the country's most important infrastructure. This work includes an upgrade to the primary port of Massawa and a road that links Massawa and Assab, the site of another port. Listen, this relationship is so relevant that the country of Eritrea has discovered that China is a strategic partner. And that's the reason why they are going into this relationship to make sure that the partnership benefits on the win-win side. The country of Eritrea and the United States of America don't see eye to eye in a number of very important areas. That's the reason why the country of Eritrea is expanding its influence, looking at the United States of America's geopolitical partners, or as you say, geopolitical foes, so to point out. The already close relationship has grown noticeably tighter in recent years. Wang Yi, who is now China's most important diplomat, as director of the CCP Central Committee Foreign Affairs Commission, visited Eritrea twice in his 3-year tenure as foreign minister in 2020 and 2022. During the latest visit, the countries established a strategic partnership, marking the first time Eritrea has entered Beijing's taxonomy of partner nations. Xi Jinping, Chinese special envoy for the Horn of African Affairs, followed up by Wang Yi's visit in March and September of that same year. During both visits, Xi met with President Afaki. In 2021, Eritrea officially joined the Belt and Road Initiative. Trade between the two nations has surged as well. In that same year, looking at 11 years ago, Chinese companies have built and also bought controlling stakes in the 4 of Eritrea's developing mining projects from Australian and Canadian companies. Some of those projects contain world-class deposits. 2 of those acquisitions, Zinc Mine Group's buyout out of Canada's Nomson Resources, Copper and also Zinc Mine, and the Sinshan Roads and Bridge Groups, looking at how they bought out of Australian company the Danakali Potash project, happened within that same period of time, looking at 5-year period. Now, Eritrea is a very strategic location in terms of a very important country. I will go into more specifics on why Eritrea is a strategically positioned nation that keeps the United States of America worried in terms of Chinese involvement and other geopolitical partners who do not see eye to eye like Russia. So let me look at how Eritrea is important in terms of Russian own perspective. If you look at Russian recent engagement, shortly after his visit to Beijing, Afaki jetted off to Moscow for discussion with President Vladimir Putin. Russian ties with Eritrea are much less extensive than that of China, in part because the Soviet Union in 1991 collapse severely curtailed Russia's African outreach. But like Afaki's visit to China, this trip to Russia is part of the broader campaign to deepen ties. 4 months before Afaki's Moscow trip, Sergei Lavrov made the first ever visit to Eritrea by a Russian foreign minister. The Eritrean president was invited to attend the Russian-African summit that took place in St. Petersburg in that particular period of the year. Eritrea was also one of the only African countries to vote against 2 United Nations resolutions condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And Eritrea, along with China, Russia, and rogues a gallery of other states considered by the West, founded the anti-Western group of friends in defense of the Charter of the United Nations in 2021. Eritrea is only about the size of Virginia, with a population of around just over 6 million people. But Asmara punches above its weight in geopolitical significance because of where it sits. It has nearly 1,400 miles of Red Sea coastline and shares a maritime border with Yemen and Saudi Arabia. It holds a commanding position on the Bab el-Mandeb Strip, a global shipping checkpoint, and an island's purpose Red Sea. Also looking at the approach to the Strait, Assab is closer than any other port to the heart of the Bab, and much of Eritrea may be mineral rich. It is important to look at Eritrea from a strategic point of view. Why? Because Eritrea sits at a very important location in the continent of Africa that keep United States very concerned, and US loss of influence in the continent of Africa has made the United States of America to see Russia and China to be as accomplices in terms of their own perspective in achieving their own goals in that particular region. So let me look at the implication for the United States with regards to China and Russia's closest relations with the country of Eritrea. The implication for the United States of America: alarm bells should be ringing in the Pentagon of the United States of America's Department if China develops a base or possibly even dual-use infrastructure in Assab or Massawa to complement its base in the neighboring Djibouti. It will block and also be able to blockade the Bab el-Mandeb Strip. If a confrontation with China were to occur, such a closure would force American Sixth Fleet to waste precious days seemingly from the Mediterranean Sea around the southern tip of the African to get to the Indian Ocean or Pacific Ocean. Beijing could also cut off access to the port of Djibouti, which is critical for the operations of the nearly United States of America's Sixth Fleet military base, and which is used by the 5 of Departments of Defense 11 Combat Command. Eritrea has recently begun to grant basic right to foreign powers, the United States of America, considering the United Arab Emirates and other countries rapidly deepening ties with China and Russia, operated a military base on Assab for years as part of its Yemen operations and made improvements to the airstrip there. Several years ago, the United Arab Emirates began dismantling part of the base. However, it is unclear whether it is fully withdrawn or still maintain a presence, particularly as original lease for at least 30 years. Russia also wants a base in the region to bolster its ability to project power into the Red Sea, with the potential to cause problems for the United States of America. In 2018, Moscow signed an agreement with Asmara to establish a logistic base, but nothing appears to have come of it. However, Lavrov may have revisited the topic in January of that particular year with regards to his visit to Asmara, and there are also some rumors with regards to Russia's presence in the country. Notwithstanding, looking at this particular relationship so far, if you look at other perspective, however, Moscow also tried to secure its own base in Djibouti, but also rebuffed and has long pressed the Sudanese government for basing rights in the Port Sudan on the Red Sea. So, Eritrea is a very strategically located country in the continent of Africa, as you've known so far. So, China and Russia are basically looking on how to get very close to this particular country. And more importantly, Eritrea has made it clear that at the moment is focusing on a strategic partnership with the country of China, more closely with Russia as well, considering that the country of Eritrea is under the United States of America sanction in a number of areas. Eritrea increased closeness with two of Washington's primary competitors come amid years of decline in American influence in the Horn of Africa. Eritrea's eastern neighbor is Djibouti, which hosts an American military base. As of 2017, Djibouti also hosts Chinese first overseas military base, a hardened encampment with a piers large enough to support a Chinese aircraft carrier and nuclear submarine. Chinese companies have built or begun managing two of the Djibouti seaport, 4 commercial terminals, and have constructed much of the country's recent military infrastructure and also country's own social infrastructures as well, which contribute to Djibouti's heavy Chinese debt as well. However, and China is a huge investor in the country of Eritrea. To Djibouti east side sits Somalia, which is wrecked by conflict and corruption despite billions of the United States of American dollars and other showed of Mogadishu for a decade. Its foreign minister, Asha Omar Jama, recently visited Moscow for talks with Lavrov. They reported to have discussed military cooperation, raising the prospect of the Russian Revolutionary Force to also engage in that particular country of the continent of Africa. To Eritrea's west lies Sudan, which has over 500 miles of Red Sea coastline. Civil war broke out there in April, draining years of American effort to help decent civilians and also government. Meanwhile, Russia has also strong presence in the country. American non-response to point out the United States of America faces increasingly likelihood that thousands of miles of Red Sea's Gulf of Aden and also Indian Ocean coastline will become progressively more inhospitable. Two of the 3 countries, Eritrea and Djibouti, that command the Bab el-Madi Strip could fall irreversibly into the hands of the Chinese camp. Yet Washington's response has been either apathic or ineffective. In Sudan, the United States of America spent most of its diplomatic energy supporting doomed ceasefire. And despite years of warning from senior U.S. military officers, Washington has failed to halt or even impede Chinese growing influence in Djibouti. Meanwhile, the United States of America has allowed one of its most promising relationships in the whole region to cool. Washington has slowed engagement with pro-American Somaliland in recent renovated Barbara Seaport and also airport over delayed elections and territorial dispute in the east. Those concerns are legitimate, however. The United States is losing out in its important part of the world and should not be any concern in terms of Somalia delays and elections that are also increasing violence in that particular part of the continent of Africa, which are ancillary to the American interest and derail its pursuit for core interests. Eritrea's increasing close relations with Beijing and Moscow likely meant that the situation is in the Horn of Africa will soon get even worse for Washington. The warning signs are obvious, but whether Washington is paying sufficient attention or has a workable plan for addressing the problem is much less to be seen. We want to thank you for watching. Leave us a comment and let us know what you think with regards to Eritrea's relationship with the country of China and Russia. And let us know if you are from Eritrea. And let us know why you think this relationship is growing on strength by strength, and why the United States is staying mute at this particular time of its history, and why the recent changes in the United States of America's geopolitical spectrum has caused the US to lose focus and interest in the continent of Africa. We shall be looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Have a good day. Bye-bye.